Hi, everybody. I'm just getting my life together over here just a second, and we're going to talk about Jupiter retrograde because Jupiter is retrograde today, and I can't really tell you why I'm so excited about it, but I am really pumped about this Jupiter retrograde. There's so much I have been watching happen and play out in the global world, considering not only the Jupiter energy, high Norma, but also looking at this North Node in Cancer business that we've got going on, Uranus and Taurus. You guys, watching this happen in a global space is absolutely incredible. Hi, Christine. Hi, Alchemy. Okay, so let me tell you, I was surfing around yesterday and reading. Hi, Kimmy. Hi, June. Hi, Soul. So I keep up with the news, and I want to be clear too, as I'm talking about these things, I'm not interested in necessarily a political conversation, but looking at how our outer planets and how our planets are really putting an emphasis on things that we can just watch happening in the world and watch how we're questioning things, brought about wanting to do this video as well because, hi, Lee. Hi, Tim. Hi, Michelle, because we are going to start to do some reevaluations of policies, ideas, traditions that we've had, and all of these things, and some of them are uncomfortable. We got to get uncomfortable to move forward. We have to reevaluate some things. Okay, so first and foremost, before I jump into the Jupiter retrograde, because I don't want anybody to miss their sign or anything like that, let's talk a little bit about what I've been scoping out. So first of all, like or dislike her, it really doesn't matter which way you go. Miss AOC, okay, Miss Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Can anybody say North Node in Capricorn? That woman voice is coming up, because remember where the North Node goes, right? And it's in Cancer right now, so it's a very feminine energy. We see that this is going to be what we're rising, what we're moving into. It's going to become a more powerful voice. What we're detaching from on the other side is that South Node, transiting South Node in Capricorn. This is a traditional male energy, right? And it's in our structures, it's in our government, it's in our policies, it's in our sense of authority, right? So we've got these two things where they're making a shift with each other. And again, if you know me, if you've been following this channel, you know I love men and women, different but equal, okay? So there's no bashing happening here. We're just having the conversation. So as we're watching this North Node in Cancer happen, how many women did we have step into Congress positions? How many women do we have who are wanting to step up right now into this presidential race and into the political conversation, the conversations of our structure, of our government, of all of these things, right? So we see this North Node bringing a very feminine vibe to the table. And in a way, sometimes it's just flat out bringing women to the table, and in other ways it's bringing a more feminine energy, however that shows up to the table. But it's certainly made it very public, very present. The thing that I love and I get all amped up about when it comes to looking at the nodal energies, it's like with transits, my experience, okay? My experiences with transits, it's like, okay, Saturn's transiting over here. Here's some things that could happen and play out. Whenever I look at node energy, wherever it's at, these are the things that do happen, right? Like, you know, astrology is not an absolute matter of fact art. It's just not. We don't claim that for good reason. But in my experience, every time I watch these nodes move, what they're about is exactly what plays out. So this is really cool to see that happening. Now, I don't know if you had the opportunity, and if you didn't, I'll put a link below this video to the conversation that was being had the other day by Miss Alexandria. And what she said is the absolute beautiful definition, you guys, of Uranus and Taurus. And here we are on time having that conversation. She said, whether we do this green deal, we don't do this green deal. And again, whether you agree, disagree, that's not what we're talking about. She said, whether we do this green deal or not, we're going to either pay in prevention or we're going to pay to clean it up. And who we need to be having this conversation with are the farmers, are the people in agriculture, the people in housing. We need to have the conversation with the constituents, not in here in this room with a bunch of people who think that thinking about the climate and the planet are an elitist issue, right? Uranus and Taurus on time, working, and it is coming through that North Node energy. It is absolutely brilliant. Not to mention that Uranus is about, it's a little bit of a younger energy, right? And we're getting to see that in our political arena, right? We've got a lot of young blood moving in there, or younger ideas, innovative ideas. How do we do this much differently? Now, if you can think back to just about a year ago, okay, short of a year ago, when we had the North Node of Destiny in Leo. This was about bringing a sense of pride and a sense of integrity to the table, right? Like there's a very big voice that came about it. There's kind of a roar that comes with that Leo energy. And now we're watching it come around and come up, and it's just absolutely brilliant. So I just wanted to point those two things out as we bring some things to the table, because now that we've got this brilliant Jupiter retrograde, which is starting today, and to be clear, remember when there's a retrograde energy, you guys, or if you don't remember, you're just learning, what happens when an energy or a planet is getting ready to go retrograde is it's a 4-part shift that's happening, okay? So we've got the shadow period where the planet's slowing down, getting ready to retrograde, then it retrogrades, then it comes direct, and then it's got the last half of its shadow period. And the way that I teach that, or I explain that, is like it's kind of like vacation. You know, you got to pack for vacation and get all your ish together, right? And then you go on vacation and the planet flips around and we have the retrograde motion, and then you come back from vacation, but then you got to unpack all your stuff in the rest of the shadow time. So the full capacity of this Jupiter retrograde started January 14th with Jupiter going into shadow period at 14 degrees of Sagittarius. Now, as it is retrograde today, it's retrograde at 24 degrees of Sagittarius. On August 11th, Jupiter is going to come direct at 14 degrees of Sagittarius. And when it leaves its shadow time, not until November, it's going to be at 24 degrees of Sagittarius again. Now, what is Jupiter retrograde about? Why do we care? Okay, because Jupiter is out there, right? It's a little bit more of a subtle retrograde. It is nothing like Mercury retrograde, okay? But Jupiter is about expansion. He's about big ideas, the big picture, global things, international things, things with our laws, our policies, our religions, customs, traditions, faith, our educational systems, right? Our beliefs, just our beliefs in general, right? So when that planet who wants to expand and get us out there and has these big ideas and governs this area goes retrograde, of course, we're going to re-look at all of those things. Now, first and foremost, on a global level, we're going to go back over some beliefs, whether they be religious, cultural, international, things that have to do with education and travel. And we got to look at these things, right? What are our beliefs that we've got going here? Because the beliefs are driving the actions that we're taking globally, right? So in a global way, we're relooking at those things. Now, other things that are going to be important during this particular retrograde is looking at things of how do we travel, airline laws, air policies. These things are going to definitely come up, because ultimately what we're looking for here is the wisdom to explore and to expand. Now, what Jupiter can also do, this is the reason we need to go back, because every planet has its good things, it has its challenging things. And one of the things that Jupiter can do is give us too big of a view. We've been too inclusive. We've made it too big that there's no way we could possibly ever have useful structure around it, right? And so we also have this place of a little bit of a rose-colored glasses. Maybe we've seen too in between the lines, and that's personal and global. So as we're considering these things, watch the news, you guys. Watch what's happening in your communities. What ideas are you going over? When I pulled up information for today, I saw that in Canada, a big thing that's coming up, and I think it falls right in the Jupiter retrograde, is that there is a Catholic school that is suing to not be included in some of the LGBT laws. And if that law, it's groundbreaking, it's the first of its kind, if it were to pass, it would change things going forward for not just Canada, right? So what are we doing there? That's a feminine beliefs to the table. So in a very big global way, just watch how these things are happening around us and the things we're going to reconsider. Are we using the right wisdom here? Did we make this too big so we can't swallow it and live with it? Or do we need to just expand our own thinking? So just watch that, you guys, okay? But now I want to talk a little bit about this on a personal level, because all of those things are going to be implicated for you as well, depending on what house this is happening in for you. And if you need to know what house this retrograde is happening in for you, I made you a whole video on how to identify it in your chart. It is up, it's posted on the page. Go find it. I made it specifically so that you could be a part of the conversation with me. Hi, Jessica. Hi, Claire. So use that video if you need to. And what you're looking for is Jupiter in Sagittarius at 14 degrees. Okay, so you want to find that. So whatever house this retrograde is happening for you. Hi, Rose. Whatever house it's happening in for you, those are the issues that are going to be up on your table. And what it could look like in a very subtle way is a little bit of chaos coming into this particular area of your chart. And it can look a little bit of mess, like messy. You know what I mean? And sometimes it looks like a mess, but it's actually your message. It's your blessing in disguise, right? And what it'll have to do is your thinking. What are your thinking? What is your belief in this particular area? Because whatever you're focusing on, it is driving your action, and you maybe need to make a very necessary course correction for yourself. If you've been off of a path that you know that your spirit is telling you that you should be on, you will need to make a course correction as well. Because when a planet goes retrograde, it retraces its steps with this opportunity to just embody the lessons that you didn't catch previously, right? So it's a deeper level of being able to really go back and solidify those lessons. Now, one thing I will tell you during a Jupiter retrograde is be sure to the best of your ability that you have all of your facts, you have all of your information, and maybe even take an opportunity to take a deep breath before you make any huge decisions. Now, this is not the same as a Mercury retrograde where it's like, hey, you're just going to have miscommunications. This could be crazy. I caution you to take time to evaluate your own beliefs, your own journey, what you want, what's best for you. No snap decisions to the best of your ability, because you may act prematurely believing that you're making the right decision. Jupiter's going retrograde because there's something for you to see. So give yourself a deep breath if you can. Be objective in what you're doing. If you can have a level of detachment towards some big decisions, especially about your beliefs or your culture or these kinds of things, it'll be a blessing to you, because Jupiter can bring these rose-colored glasses out, and next thing you know, you're like, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe I believed that. And here's a prime example. Last year, when we had Jupiter retrograde, I had one very big, long-standing, long-lasting political belief, right? And it's one that I had carried from the time that I was in college, right? And I researched it. I'm an intelligent woman. I didn't just fly off the handle and decide this is what I believe with no research behind it, okay? I am a Virgo rising, and I am a 9th house Taurus. I need facts, okay? So, but during Jupiter retrograde, I went back and I saw that my political, philosophical belief was not in alignment with my faith belief, and not faith like my religion, faith in that place where I go, where it is all inclusive, it's roomy, there's nothing but honesty and wisdom there. They didn't line up. And then I got to learn more about that particular ideology that I had, and saw why it was no longer right for me. And so this is what I'm talking about at this particular Jupiter retrograde. So take time to rediscover. Now, the other big thing I'll say before I start talking about it in each of the in the different houses is that this is a phenomenal time with Jupiter retrograde to rediscover, reconnect with, reestablish your faith. And faith does not always mean religion. This is faith. Faith is, I don't actually know if this is going to work out, but I'm going to trust whatever you trust, whether you call it God, the universe, whatever you call it in your language, this something that's out there that's got my back. I'm going to trust it anyways and believe that this is going to work out and that my best interest is taken care of. And if you call it your higher self, whatever it is that you call it, faith means you're going to go forward whether you know it's going to work out or not, with the idea that you're going to either be taught to fly if you jump off that cliff, or that there's going to be good ground underneath you so that you can walk, right? That's faith. Reconnect with what makes you feel connected and recalibrate your inner navigational system, because I'm telling you, what you believe is driving some things that you're doing in your life, okay? All right, I'm off the soapbox. I get all crazy. I don't know why I'm so excited about this particular retrograde. Now let's talk about a couple things for the signs out there before I jump into the houses. I will tell you, I think that this particular retrograde, if you are a Sagittarius or Gemini, or a Virgo or a Pisces, this may be a little bit more intense for you. And why I say that is, first of all, if it's happening in your sign, Sagittarius, you get a little bit more of the intensity, especially if you have personal planets over there. But also, when it's happening in one sign, we want to look across the street, right? We want to go see who's being affected across the street. So for Sagittarius, it's going to be Gemini. Now, Jupiter is in a long-term square this year with Neptune, who's over in Pisces. So Pisces is getting some love, which means we need to look across the street and see how Virgo's doing as well. So this may be a little bit intense for you guys. You may feel like you're really journeying at this time, which is a beautiful thing. Remember, sometimes the mess is the message, and that's okay. Now, who I think it'll actually be harder for are the Cancerian energies, the Scorpio energies, Taurus and Capricorn. And this is more so based on the houses that it's happening for you. And I'll talk about that as we continue to travel along here for a second. But here's the good news, right? If you're anything else, so if you're like an Aquarius, if you are a Leo, if you're Aries or Libra and you guys just had moons, you guys are doing good. This is a good retrograde for you because you have found some independence. You are a little detached from things. You are moving forward. You're in a very innovative place. If you're one of those 4 signs, okay? So let's talk about these as they are running through your particular houses, okay? Or for your sign, just depending on how you choose to look at it, okay? Now, if you are considering this from an Aries energy, and remember this is going to be general because I don't have everybody's chart, but if you're considering this from the perspective of Aries energy, this is happening in your 9th house. Or if you just want to consider that it's happening in your 9th house, you can do that either way, okay? But either way, Jupiter is the natural ruler of the 9th house, so going retrograde in a 9th house space, the highlight for you are going to be all of these themes that have to do with publishing, broadcasting, education, travel, international travel, psychology, philosophy, religion, faith, spirituality, maybe even relearning a language in some way, shape, or form. Things that have to do with the law could be coming to your table. If you've had a lawsuit or something like that, this could be an energy that you're dealing with. Now, what's it about? Is that with Jupiter, because you're having to question your beliefs and your thinking, your big picture thinking, what's happening is that you kind of find yourself at an impasse. You're like, well, because Jupiter also wants freedom, right? So he's like, how do I create freedom here? My thinking might be keeping me trapped. Where do I want to go? What's my mission I'm trying to be on or be about here? And if you're honest with it, and if you're honest with what you're evaluating, and if you're honest with yourself about what you want in the big picture, it'll show you where you are not on course. It's absolutely brilliant. So what I tell you is, in these areas of your life in this 9th house space, stay busy. Stay curious, stay open-minded, stay willing to be flexible so that you can make different choices that lead to your own freedom and allow your inner compass to guide you towards what that journey is for yourself, okay? Because you are being guided, I assure you. And if it does have something to do with the law, it's time to address it. What's the honesty in the situation? Do not try to manipulate your way out of anything that comes during this retrograde. You're going to have to step up and be honest with it, and then you get some freedom and some movement, okay? All right, if you're looking at it from Taurus energy or in your 8th house space, this is why I say Taurus. I think you're one of the ones it's a little bit harder for because it is happening in your 8th house. And this creates huge unfolding changes in your joint resources. And this has to do with everything from the actual act of sex, your reproductive organs, your finances with another person, partnerships, marriage, something in your place where you're intimately connected to another source. You're connected to a joint resource in some way. you're sharing energy. These things may start to feel really big for you, or you feel like you're stepping into a different role in some way, shape, or form. It can even feel so big that it feels like maybe your independence or your voice or what you've known yourself to be is being swallowed up in some kind of partnership in some way, shape, or form. So here's what I'll tell you. There is potential for you in every situation to maintain your independence while building intimacy, right? This is the place where what you're going to need to realize is that it's actually interdependence can lead to independence here, right? This is not the energy where codependence leads to anything really great, but an interdependence, because this just may be something that is really new for you, or you're having to make some choices around your financial decisions, maybe financial decisions around debt so that you have personal freedom in some way, shape, or form. But either way, Jupiter is still involved here, obviously, so you're evolving in whatever this joint resource area is, but it does require a lot of standing out there on your own feet, honestly, and getting clarity about how to make these choices and independently, okay? All right, Gemini, you're on the other side of this particular retrograde. So it's in the 7th house for you. So just know you're going to relook at partnerships. And I even think that maybe some doors to partnerships that you had opened before, or maybe you knocked on the door before, they're starting to open during the retrograde, or maybe they're starting to crack during the retrograde, and then we get towards August, September timeframe, and they're opening, and they have a positive influence for you to walk through to the other side. Now, I also want to tell you that I think with this Jupiter retrograde in your partnership sector, with this theme of honesty, you have to be honest about how you're showing up. You have to be honest about how you're showing up in your one-on-one relationships, and you have to be honest about whether or not your one-on-one conscious chosen relationships are doing anything for you in your life, right? Do you have some hanger-oners that are not really bringing any life, any faith, any expansion to your table? Are you showing up in someone's life and you're not really giving partnership? I think that this is a great energy to reevaluate that, because remember, there's freedom in commitment. Even in our friendships and our business relationships, there's security that can be there as well if we're honest about what everybody's bringing to the table. And I just want to say this to you. I don't know why, but I feel like I need to say this. If it's Gemini energy, if this is happening in your 7th house, you are loved, you are guided, you are protected, you are deeply cared for, and you can be deeply acknowledged as long as you're not hanging out with dishonesty in your relationship table. Right? So if you've got some relationships that show up or come back into your life from previous teachers and mentors as well, I think that that is a beautiful energy to work with, and it's retrograde. Things from the past can come back, and maybe you can vibe with or work with that particular mentor or teacher or system at the point going forward and actually create something beautiful for it. So make sure that those relationships are on par, okay? Hi, Carl. Hi, Styles. All right. Cancer energy, or happening in the 6th house of work. Of course, we're going to look over work things. And when I'm talking work, I'm talking about daily routines at work. If you are independent or freelance, this Jupiter retrograde will have you looking at work in that way. Daily routines, health, mental wellness as well. If you're a caretaker or you do anything that is of selfless service, you know, I'm talking about CNAs, caretaking in some way, shape, or form is what's coming to my mind and my table. These are the things that you're evaluating in this particular retrograde. So it's the chances are with whether it's work, health, or a routine matter or something like that, what you can do is, remember, Jupiter's looking at the big picture. So take a step back for a second. Take a step back and look around and go, wait a minute, is this daily routine helping me? Wait a minute, am I giving all that I have to give here? Wait a minute, is this going to be the best for me going forward? Right? Or is it that in your daily routine, you feel like you're running in 2 different directions? Hi, Tiffany. Hi, Nicole. Right? What's happening here? What is your level of ambition? What do you want for your health? Do you want to be continuing to live up in your head where there's a whole bunch of conversation, confusion, doubt, you're worrying about things, right? Like, do you want to be up here, or do you want to live in a space that is a little bit more rewarding? What's driving you to stay in the daily routine that you've got going on? Let's question those things at this time. This Jupiter retrograde is bringing some wisdom. And again, be honest, right? And just because a situation's tough or hard doesn't necessarily mean that it is a situation you need to leave. You are going to have to trust your internal compass here and see the wisdom, okay? You're looking for freedom, but freedom doesn't always mean leaving, right? Freedom sometimes means I need to adjust my attitude around a situation that I'm in. Freedom means I need to adjust my attitude with my coworkers if we're going to have a better interaction, right? So look at where the honesty of the adjustment is at, all right? Okay. So right now we're moving into Leo energy, or if this is happening in your 5th house, okay? So in this 5th house energy in Leo, you are one of the ones who's just, you got it good right now. Like, you've really got it good right now. This is great positioning for you. Cancer, a little bit harder, okay? But Leo, you've got it pretty good here. So over the next 4 months, what's going to happen is this is a process of expression discovery. Right? You're discovering your voice. You're discovering your heart. Again, that is that big old Leo 5th house kind of energy, is like, what's my heart got to say about this? Right? What's true for me here? Right? Like, you know, do I keep showing up and I'm not really saying the things that I'm passionate about? Right? Am I not taking pride in the things that I'm bringing to the table? Because this is the thing. Maybe you're out there, you're doing good things in the world, and you're not taking your credit. Right? Because you don't always have to take credit. There's humility in the silence, in the anonymity of it, right? But sometimes you got to be like, yeah, I do things well. This is my gig. This is my voice. This is my gift. This is my talent, right? And this is what I'm bringing to the room, because remember, in your 5th house, you're carrying some swagger. Okay, you've got some swagger in your 5th house, so let's not act like you don't, okay? So maybe that's something that's happening. But I also feel like when we step into the 5th house workings, we get a different perspective on things, because we have to look creatively at ourselves. We have to look at what our expression is. This could also be a place for you too with 5th house things. Maybe some wisdom of things having to do with children is coming back to the table, or there's a reconnection with children, or children are teaching you something in some way, shape, or form. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that they're your children living in your house. You know, who knows? Maybe you are inspired to pick up a book and you're learning about something, and it's coming through the lens of children in some way, shape, or form. I learn things all the time from these little children's songs that teach you about math, because I'm terrible at math, and they're like, 1 + 1 is 2, and I'm all into it, you know? So whatever it is, you could see children playing a very big piece in your world, okay? Now, here's the other thing I'll tell you with Jupiter in the 5th house for you. Create and learn in an environment that you want to. And here, if you want to love, do it. Do it. Do it fearlessly. Take your swagger house and go out there and love people. If you want to date, you want to be seen, you want to go do it. The wisdom is in the action. Go do it. You want to forgive what seemed like an impossible love situation? Forgive. Do it. But if you want to do it, you want to love, just do it. Okay? So since you guys have it good, you can just do it like Nike, okay? All right, Virgo energies or happening in the 4th house. Home, family, real estate, property, your parents, women in your life, that internal emotional security and foundation. You're going to be looking for deeper understanding, deeper connection to these things. And anything connected to your house and your family, domestic things are going to come into your view. So something that may run up to your table, because remember, we're looking at for the wisdom and the honesty in it. Maybe you are evaluating your childhood right now, right? What was your childhood life? What were the dynamics of the relationships in your childhood, right? What are the dynamics in your home life right now? You could be looking for that. You're looking for freedom, right? Do you want to have different dynamics in your home? And that can include, when I say different dynamics as well, do you want to be living someplace else, right? I don't think that a Jupiter retrograde is a phenomenal time to pick up and make a move. I really just do not. But this will very much so depend on your chart. But definitely some plans or some perspective could be coming to the table about disconnecting from where you're at and maybe getting ready to make a move forward. Also, things with authority. You could have some questions or some issues or some things coming up around authority that you're reviewing at this time. And you may have to call in a lot of faith when you are dealing with the fourth house. So the other thing I think about in the fourth house is that place of emotional security. And so I would ask you to consider, if this is Virgo energy for you or your fourth house, what's the level of trust that you have with people? What's the level of trust that you have for yourself? Do you feel safe, sane, and protected? And if not, how can you make your environment that way? What can you do to bring that into your world? What's the wisdom you have to bring that level of freedom to yourself, okay? All right, Libra energy, or if this is happening in your third house, new information. This is a communication house. This is a communication space. You may have lots of questions. You're thinking. You could be re-looking at your own thinking, re-looking at your own opinions of things, right? Why do you believe what you believe? What do you believe about a certain thing? You know, if I put political questions or if I put spiritual questions on your table today, what do you think and why do you think them? Where is your evidence for why you think them? Exactly like my experience was. What's your deeper truth as to why you honestly think and believe the things that you do, and honestly communicate the way that you do, right? Sometimes we feel wise and justified and competent and intelligent in what we think and what we're sharing, and we find out we've got the facts wrong, right? Like, we're not solidly grounded in all of the information. So sometimes we have to rethink our thinking. Sometimes we have to rethink and relook at how we're learning, right? Are you trying to study or learn something new, and you need to find a new way of learning, or a way of learning that's better for you to get the information? Maybe you're not a traditional student. Hey, maybe you're not a great online student and you need to be a traditional student. It is okay to not fit with the fold. The fact is, for your clarification and your long-term satisfaction, you've got to be honest with your communication, thinking, mental situation happening here. Now, the third house also has to do with siblings and neighbors. If you've got ish with them, or you've never gotten to get to know them, something with neighbors and siblings could be going on as well that brings some wisdom to your table, and you get perspective to see a situation from a different perspective. The third house and the law, neighbors and the law tend to go together. So if you've got something going there, it may be back on your table as well. All right, Scorpio energy, or happening in your second house. Okay, so money. This is about money. You're going to look at your money. You're going to look at your money. You're going to look at the material things in your life. You're going to look at your self-esteem, your value, and not only that, your talents, your skills that you have, because from the second house is where you go out and you make money, right? Like, you're going out, you're using a skill, you're using a talent, or you're just going brainlessly where you're going and you are making money, but you're bringing home the tacos, okay? So in this house, we're going to relook at these things. It's a 4-month journey of recalibrating your sense of worth, your sense of what your talents are. Maybe you even discover that you have some skills or some talents that you didn't know that you had, right? Here, over this last little bit of time, with other things happening in my second house, I can tell you that I found out I'm much stronger at Greek mythology and Roman mythology than I knew, right? Like, I had no idea I knew stuff, and I'm going to incorporate that in things going forward, but I didn't even realize that I knew that. So things like that can just be, the perspective can shift, or you get busy doing something and it shows you that you have a skill or of a talent. Now, in a very practical way, I will tell you, whatever your current financial situation is, whatever your current relationship to your finances are, you could realize that you need to make some adjustments in the material plane with that. And that's not always a bad thing. It's not always like, oh, you need to make a budget because all your money's going to run out. Sometimes, and some people will tell you that they struggle with this idea that they need to have all this money they need to keep. In the second house, we like to keep and we like to possess. And then they are starting to figure out that life in just the material plane is not going to work, right? Like, we're not going to take it with us when we die. We're not, right? So it could be that too, that you're having this release of understanding that it's not just in the material plane, that maybe there's a space for sharing your material worth with people and things like that. Now, the second house too, because it is traditionally a Venus ruled energy, I do consider relationships here as well as finance. So you might have to be finding some personal freedom between finances and romances. Where do you not have your own 2 feet on the ground? Or where in this relationship, whether it's finances or romance, can you adjust for a level of freedom within the commitment that you have here? There's a space to kind of give back a little bit in whatever the relationship is. So worth and value are going to become a word over this next 4 months that are very critical for you to work with, okay? All right, so let's say you've got this going in Sagittarius or in your first house. Now, first of all, Jupiter's been here. He's home here. He's comfortable. So it's been a pretty good time, right? Like wisdom, self-confidence, self-knowledge. It's all rolling to the table. It's brilliant, right? Now, when Jupiter goes retrograde in your sign, you're going to rethink you. Right? You're entering this phase of personal rediscovery, personal awareness, right? Like in the world, when you're out there and you're putting yourself out there in the world, you're presenting your ideas, you're presenting your perspectives, you're just presenting yourself. How do you want to be seen? How do you want to present yourself? What do you want to be known about? Right? What are the words you want coming out of your mouth? These are things that I think that your level of self-awareness and your level of self-confidence comes back up because you go back over. You relook at your gifts, your talents. You go back, you relook over fears that you've had that have kept you in your shadow side instead of really putting yourself out there. I will tell you, if this is something around a business for you, maybe you even relook at how you're putting products out there or something like that. Now, because Sagittarians, are our truth seekers, are our information seekers, and you guys tend to have a lot of information floating up there, you could also be re-looking at the information that you have. And you too could be re-looking at what you think about what you think about. If you felt divided on different policies, different ideas, different conceptions, maybe within your religion, your faith, your whatever, you find some confidence at this time that is your own. But be honest, give yourself permission to agree with what you agree with, right? You don't need to make anybody happy, right? You don't have to hold your opinion back so that you look good in public. What do you believe? What do you believe? So this is all about your personal freedom. And I also think too, Sagittarius, if for any reason you've kind of been in this holdback position where you haven't really let yourself be free, be fun, be happy, be in love, that pursuit of happiness, let yourself have it, okay? Let yourself have it. All right, Capricorn, or having a Jupiter retrograde through your 12th house space. Now, whenever we run into the 12th house, what we want to be paying attention to are the things that are not always seen. So pay attention to your intuition, pay attention to your dreams. I think I can't remember, and tell me if I'm wrong, if this is a part of your faith, but I think it's either the Amish or the Quakers maybe, and they talk about having a knowing, right? And this is the space of the 12th house, and Jupiter retrograde may bring a knowing. Like you have a knowing that's just happening inside of you. And it's like, I know this from the past. I know this information. I know this is a fear I have. You're becoming very present and aware where you have fears, where you have these knowings, where you need to ask for help, where you need to share for information. And the thing I think about all the time in the 12th house is anything that we're holding on to back here that we won't share, we won't allow to come to the light. It's like you're as sick as your secrets. That's what my spiritual friend tells me all the time. You're as sick as your secrets. So if you've got some ish you're holding on to, Jupiter's going to come back here and say, is this really wise? Is this best for us? Is this going to create freedom for us? Or do we need to ask for some help? Or do we need to share this idea? If you're doing research of some variety, Jupiter is going to be more than helpful for you here. And because it could potentially be in Capricorn energy for you, in that particular sun energy for you, teamwork. Think about teamwork because you want to achieve here, right? So you could have teamwork makes the dream work coming to the table, but whatever it is, there's definitely an energy in your 12th house with this of being honest, but being honest for the energy of achievement, right? Freedom through achievement. So if you got something hiding out in the 12th house, or you're just able to acknowledge a fear that's been keeping you held back, then it's okay. After this retrograde comes through, you're going to have the authority and the capacity to move these things into the light and help yourself, okay? All right, guys, we are almost there. Aquarian energy, or happening in your 11th house. Friends, social groupings, organizations, community things, long-range plans and goals, your technology, things that have to do with social spaces, Facebook, Instagram, any of those things. You're going to be reevaluating those things. And I think the number one with Jupiter here is a lot of reevaluating like long-range plans and goals. But for some of you, it could just come flat down to friendships, right? Like, you're learning in friendships, you're learning in relationships, but are these friendships in alignment with your heart, with what's really, really right for you? Or, you know, have you outgrown some friendships maybe even, and it's time for you to move forward into a different place, or you need to align with an organization? Does your social circle and situation, does your Facebook life match your real life? That's a great question at this time because it's honest. If it's honest, your Facebook life will match your real life, right? We don't see one picture of you and then it's really another way, right? So acknowledging that, I think, is great. Is your social situation in alignment to support your aspirations and your dreams and your goals and the knowledge that you have to bring to the table? Do you just need to learn to use your laptop, right? Like, is this a dilemma that you're facing and you need to figure out how to actually be in the social zones? Thank you so much, Paris. So these could be things that come back to your table as well. But I would tell you too, because it's such a social space and we've got social programs, social ideas, all of these things, make sure that you take a new perspective, not a new perspective, a realigning of your perspective about what your values are and if they align with the social things that you're doing in the world, okay? All right, Pisces energy, or at that tip top of the chart in the midheaven, you're going to relook at your career. You're going to relook at your social standing in your community. You're going to relook at what you're known for. You're going to relook at your soul level calling. And depending on your career, your public image as well could just be wrapped up in here as well. And I think connections to authority as well. So one of the things I would ask you is, if this has been in your 10th house, if you've got this energy going, have you been having doubts about your career or doubting a minute that you're going to move? And I think that you've had some fear holding you up. Jupiter's going to retrograde, going to roll back through this area, show you where some fears are blocking you, show you the honesty of the situation. Is this situation realistic? Do you need more education? Do you need more training in order to make this happen? Do you feel competent and confident in this particular area of your life? What do you want to be known for in your public sphere, in your community, in your work? Either way, who you want to be, what you want to be doing in the world, you're going to take a re-evaluation of this. Now, I also think too that in a retrograde, because things come back from the past, we could be re-looking at a career that you wanted to go into before, a skill, a talent, a hobby you wanted to do before, and maybe you forgot about it, maybe whatever, right? And now you're ready to go back to it. That could definitely be something that's happening. Maybe you've been applying for jobs. This is what I'm seeing, actors and actresses for some reason. Maybe you've been applying for jobs, trying to book acting gigs or something like that, and opportunities start to come back in, right? And so you're making a progress here, because when Jupiter is retrograde, he's still our biggest benefic planet. So he's still giving. He's still very generous. They just come very slowly, but it can connect you to things you started in the past, right? Now, other things with a Jupiter retrograde in the 10th house, you could be reevaluating the wisdom of being who you've been. And what I mean by that is, do you still want to be Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so? If you are thinking, this is not who I want to be anymore, right? Like, I don't want to be married anymore. I don't want to be known for this. Or in my marriage and in my community, I don't want to be known this way. You could be relooking at a change in your relationships as well. It will just depend on, of course, your personal chart. All right, you guys, that is Jupiter retrograde through all the signs and all of the houses, depending on what you're looking for. Now, to find this in your chart, what you want to do is, first of all, check out my new Find the Transit in Your Chart video. It will help you. It will show you. But what you're looking for is 14 degrees of Jupiter in your chart, and that will tell you what house it is happening in for you. Okay, so check out that video. I specifically made it to help you guys be a part of this conversation. Check that out. And then you can listen back and see what house it's happening in for you and see what's on your evaluation station. And please keep your eyes on the news, because this is going to be good. We've got big global decisions we're going back over. Theresa May will no doubt try and get an extension with this Brexit business, right? She's going to try and get an extension because they need to reevaluate. Do we do a hard exit? Well, that's not going to be good for anybody. We can't really do a soft one. That's not going to be good for anybody. So there's so much reevaluation, and it's playing out right in front of us in our world. So check it out, you guys. I'm sending you lots of light, lots of love, and I got to go pick up the kitties from school. Bye, everybody. Thank you for showing up with me.